We'll start. Hi everyone, welcome to the first webinar of ResiRiver. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jan Mendaas, researcher at the HAN, University of Applied Science. And we are doing work package 2 of ResiRiver, which is about learning materials and knowledge sharing. So that's what we're doing in this webinar. We will hear from the City of Dordrecht, who will talk about their pilot, and the Trenouden Group Water Scheme will talk about their pilot, and it is about community support for nature-based solutions and how to do that. We will hear from their experience in 2 sessions. There will be room for questions at the end of each session, and there's also a discussion at the end of both sessions. This meeting will be recorded and edited to be a learning material for nature-based solutions. And we have also just released our first digital excursion of ResiRiver, which also will be sent out to everyone, where you can join our project meeting in Ireland, where we went into the field. You can see what we have seen, and you can hear what we have heard. So we were looking forward to that. But first, I'll give the word to Barry from the City of Dordrecht, who will tell us something about the Wantij in Dordrecht. Barry, can you share your screen? Is that possible?
If you allow me to, it is possible.
Oh,
yes.
I thought I added you to the people that can do that.
I have multiple email addresses, so maybe that is the problem. Yeah.
But
can you allow me to share screen?
Yes, that's you. Make a presenter. Now you should be able to.
Yeah. Thanks. So I will go into presentation mode, and then I cannot see you. But you can ask questions during the presentation, Jan. So if you let me know, then I'm happy to answer.
If people can raise their hands in the Teams, then I'll give you your turn.
Yeah, super. Thanks for that. So I see Christine is also here. Christine is our ecologist, and my name is Barry. I'm working as an advisor for the Green Blue City in Dordrecht. So this webinar is about community support for nature-based solutions. There are 2 presentations. First is our presentation, which is kind of a participation method or public engagement method, which is called Green Circle. I've also shared it as an experience on participation in ResiRiver. And we have applied this method for the start. The start is I will show you in just a bit. The start's in fact, it's an island on the island of Dordrecht. So Dordrecht is completely surrounded by rivers, and one river, which is the Wantij, is cutting Dordrecht in half. And the start is then an island which is completely unembanked. So there are a few dikes, but most of it is unembanked, and our green circle is called Healthy Start. Here you can see it very well. I think that Dordrecht is an island surrounded by rivers, and then I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but there's a river here in the north, which is cutting the island in half, and so the upper part. That is the start, which is our study area, I would say, in Dordrecht for the ResiRiver project, and it's also a development area. So that doesn't mean urban development, but it means development in general. Also from an environmental sense, including the urban development. And this map that you see is the vision for green-blue island of Dordrecht. So green is about nature and blue is about water. And we have developed this vision which contains 5 5 strategic goals. And the goal that is most important for this meeting is enlarging the tidal park, which is number 1, and that is what you see in the top left corner. So for us, the start and River Wantij is one of the carrying structures of our blue-green network, together with the city park, and that is in the bottom right corner, which is it's called Dordrecht Zone, and we want to develop it as a new city park. So it is not recognized as a city park as such at the moment, but we will take a lot of measures to improve the connectivity of the area, to improve both for pedestrians and bicycles, but also the ecological connectivity. And we will work on the identity of those areas to make it into a city park. And then from those 2 carrying structures, the start and the city park, there's a blue-green, branches going into the different neighborhoods, and particularly important, that is number 2, amplify or reinforce the creeks, which you see in the top right corner, and also reinforcing the dike ribbons, which is what you see in the bottom left corner. So that is old dike remnants which are still in the landscape of Dordrecht, because Dordrecht, the island as we know it now, it has developed since 1421, which was the St. Elizabeth flood, and after that flood, the land has been gradually reclaimed over a period of almost 500 to 600 years from the water. And the start, which is the unembanked area, that's the area that has never been reclaimed from the water. So that's why nowadays it functions as a freshwater tidal park. And we want to reinforce that tidal park, and we are developing a vision for that. It all started with the design atelier of the International Architecture Biennale, I think now almost 4 years ago, which looked at the start and how we can develop this area as a self-sufficient area, starting from the perspective of a large-scale shelter for flooding, because it is in an unembanked area, particularly the residential and the industrial part is located at the same height of the dikes. So that means it's about 3 meters above sea level. And in the Netherlands, that's quite high because almost all our land is below the sea level. And the start is an area which was forgotten about. That's how the residents feel it. Many facilities have moved out of the area. The inhabitants themselves, they feel forgotten. And with the idea of making a large-scale shelter, we wanted to put the neighborhood of the start back on the map. And we wanted to help this area in its development, because there has been no development, I think, since the 1970s. So it's a beautiful residential area. We wanted also to create new space for new developments, particularly close to the city center. In this architecture biennale, the idea was to look for high densities along the river Merwede, building upon the development which has already started called Stadswerven. So in this vision, there was a lot of new houses planned. We did that because each house could also be a shelter place. So this was a vision that was not yet the vision from the municipality, but it created a lot of interest in the area and a lot of good ideas which we have picked up. And now we have developed our own vision for that area. And you see here that there was already an idea here, which was quite central also in the architecture biennale, to develop the Wantij as a tidal park. along with green connections through the entire area of the start. And in the new vision, so this is the vision that we have developed from the municipality side, so not coming from the architecture biennale, so it's a bit more high-level vision. And I think what is very interesting of this vision is that our idea was or is to develop, to take one vision for the start, because it's quite a mixed area which has residential areas, it has industrial areas, it has the city center, and it has important nature and recreational areas. And we want to combine all of this in a vision of a tidal park. So a tidal park also includes industry, particularly the link with the with the water and with the river, where the harbors are very important. It has possibility to extend the number of houses, which is what you see in orange. So there is, I would say, new development in terms of buildings. And also we want to put a lot of effort to bring back facilities like a doctor or supermarkets or those type of facilities back to the area. We want to make a recreational hub, which what you see with the purple star. And we want, and I think that is particularly important for us, to find the right balance between recreation and nature development. In this area, there's also ambitions to increase the nature area for the Water Framework Directive, and also for the Natura 2000. So there's a pressure from both sides. So more nature development and also more urban development, which bring with it new recreational, needs. And we want, because of that can create a conflict. What you see with the green arrows is that we had to look outside of the start as well, in order to strike that right balance. So not put all the recreation in the start, but also look for connections with other recreational hubs on the island. Here you see some images, ideas that we have about developing recreational facilities at the river Wantij, but also what we have done recently in terms of restoration of nature. So we have done the above ground works where maintaining the trees and the plants, the willows, and now we also want in this area that you see on the bottom right to improve the underwater conditions by making, for example, a gully through this area. So I skip, and then for us, the participation is very important. Those ideas, they came from the International Architecture Biennale, but we cannot impose these ideas on the inhabitants. It has to become the ideas of the inhabitants themselves as well. So we started working with this green circle method, and our circle was called Healthy Living Environment, and its main objective. So in the green circle, we kind of unite the community members, and they themselves, they thought about what should be the goals that they are working on. So to create an exercise and stay-friendly network of public green spaces that invites the people to play, exercise, meet, and experience the greenery in the area, and thereby promoting health. And the central concept of health for us is the positive health. So that has to do with mental well-being, sense of meaning, quality of life, social participation, daily functioning. And it has several sub-goals. So realizing and improving, maintaining sufficient, suitable public green spaces for sports, play, exercise, and yeah, I would say meeting each other. So connecting the green public spaces for play, sport, and exercise, and making meeting places also by means of blue-green routes that connect those different places, and then encouraging also the use of the network. So stimulating people to go outside and to exercise or to walk or to meet others. And this started around 2000, end of 2019 with exploratory talks with our province of South Holland to see if we could start such a circle. We did one pilot, and then we did a number of, I say it wrong. The idea was to start a pilot on health, and we did a number of preparatory sessions for this in 2020. It then halted due to Corona, but I think we really started in June 2021 when we got also the when we had the consultation with the provincial executive and aldermen. So that's the moment we could start this pilot. And this is the idea of the Green Circle method. So it starts with exploring a shared dream that I show you in a bit how that has been developed for the start. And then the idea is to try connect parties with this new dream and to seal the partnership. And that partnership then becomes the Green Circle. In the Green Circle, knowledge is being gathered and shared, and a strategy is being determined. And then an action plan is being drawn up and gradually implemented. I think the word gradually is important here. I will explain why. And so what is the essence of a Green Circle collaboration? So this is a method that has been first one second. It has been developed first for the Heineken brewery, and we, the province then wanted to see if it could also be applied in other places, and maybe also with a local government and in collaboration with the inhabitants. So we adopted this method and started working with it. And the essence of the method is about initiating system change, knowledge development, and knowledge sharing. You can only achieve results together. Start working from where the energy is. So where we see that is the interest, but also the energy from the inhabitants. All the actions, they contribute to a shared dream, and it requires dialogue and trust between the participants. Ownership is very important for the measures, but also for participation. And it's also important to know each other's values and ambitions. So from those values and ambitions, the dream is being developed. And being out of, or how say that, to be to think outside of the box, and particularly about being open to unusual parties or unusual solutions and innovations that are not normally being thought of. And this is the idea behind the method. So it starts step one by seeking a shared vision and generating energy. So that has, also in Dordrecht, the first thing that they have worked on together. And then there's an inventory of what could be possible measures or projects that contribute to that dream, and also of the level of commitment for those projects or measures. And then what you will see, not all the measures that have been thought of are possible. So the measures are being analyzed in terms of their political feasibility and also in terms of cost. And so these quadrants that you see here, they are very important also in the idea behind the method. So you see that at the start, you particularly start with low-hanging fruit projects. So that is projects that have high political support and relatively low cost. This is also how we started working in Dordrecht. And then the idea is that by working on those projects, the political support will gradually shift over time. So that is what you see from going from T0 to T1 at the bottom. You see at the bottom of the graph, the political support is shifting so that there is more support for other measures as well. Due to the inspiration from the vision, from the dream, and also by seeing actual results on the ground. So the idea is that political support increases, so more parties stand behind the idea, stand behind the dream. And with that, when political support is increasing, also new money may become available, which can make new measures feasible. So we started, this is an example, but measures A, H, and B are feasible, and then you see due to the shift in political support, new measures become feasible. We did not have support before, but had a low cost. And if budgets also increase due to this increasing support, more costly measures might become politically feasible. And this is something that we have observed. So that is the theoretical idea behind it, but we have seen that happening in Dordrecht as well. So we had several meetings of the Green Circle. In May 2022, it started with the dream session, so working on the shared dream. Then there have been a broader neighborhood meeting, which you can see at the photograph below, which really had a big interest. I think there were almost 100 people there, where the ideas were presented, the dream was presented, and there were roundtable talks. And then there have been 2 follow-up meetings and a residence evening. So a public information meeting around a maintenance project that we are doing in that area on the street to see how we can also incorporate some of the ideas in that project. So what were important points? To create more inviting greenery along the walking routes and cycle routes that is missing at the moment. That has been inventoried also in a small study that we have done, creating, for example, a few benches where people could sit and have a talk or enjoy the landscape. And also the green along the routes is also important for shading on the routes, which is particularly important on hot days. You can see a temperature map of the outside temperature on a hot day. And you can, from that, there's also a shade map where you see the shade on the cycle and footpaths. And not all of them have sufficient shade to go outside during hot days. So this is something that the participants of the Green Circle, they worked on it. This is the dream that they have formulated. So the dream for a green, healthy start. In the lively, so this is the dream, how they formulated it. In the lively to start district, we play, move, and meet each other. There are many green spaces and routes, which we maintain together. So the inhabitants say they want to take a role in the maintenance. And we do this with attention to the people and for nature. And there's room for animal and plants. This was quite important because this is a low-class neighborhood. So the people do not always have the right perception of nature as well. For example, hedgehogs, they think it's, ongedierte. I don't know what is the English translation, but they think it's an unwelcome animal. They associated it with rats, for example. And also for the plants, they think it spoils their view on the river. So the fact that they formulated the dream like this for us was also an important achievement in terms of the public perception of nature as well. They formed 4 thematic working groups. One group about playing, exercising, and meeting for all ages. One group about dogs and other residents, because people like to let their dog out in that area, which is of course fine, but it can create conflicts with nature or with other functions like bicycles. Pleasant Bahnhoefweg, this is the main road going through the area, which is currently very unpleasant. Not a lot of greenery and very much focused on traffic and appropriate greenery management. So how do we maintain the green in the area as well? So what's the current status? Those low-hanging fruit or easy to realize ideas, they have been implemented. We as municipality, we placed extra benches, we placed a picnic table, we placed trash cans, some benches have been moved, and the greenery has been pruned back, particularly the invasive greenery. I think what is a very good result is we started the community center at Staartje, which was a big wish for the community as well, because this is an example of the facilities that were missing. And the thematic groups are meeting again for bigger ideas when there's a view on budget. For example, they wanted a play and meeting place park in the Merwe polder. At the moment when they started to discuss these ideas, there was no budget for it, but now that it seems that there is budget and that they can further develop this idea and realize also this meeting place. So that has really been for large parts also thanks to this method of the green circle. One that is not mentioned here, but is the Haringvlietstraat, which is a maintenance project. We as the municipality had the idea to make it the current two-way road to make it into a one-way road, so that there is much more space for green. And then the residents were very against that idea. They wanted to have their two-way road, but then we invited them. Okay, you are united in this green circle. Can you maybe also come up with a better idea? So we installed. I would say an advisory group, and the people that took part in this advisory group, they come up with an alternative plan where there is for 2/3 there's a two-way road, but for 1/3 there's also a one-way road. And then there was another information meeting where the plan was presented, I think by the municipality. And again, there was a lot of opposition, but what was very nice for us, then the inhabitants started to correct themselves. So there was in particular one, I think, inhabitant who was very angry about the plan. But then his fellow inhabitants said, look, we had the possibility to participate in this advisory group. This is the plan that we came up with. And if you don't like it, you should have participated earlier. So the citizens starts to correct themselves. And for us, that was a big success. So that is not, it's not the municipality that is doing wrong, but the citizens, they feel heard, they take ownership for the plans, and that, they also correct themselves. I now want to show this video. I think I stopped sharing now, because
yes, you did.
I want to share it along with the sound.
Yes, there's a setting for that.
Geluid opnemen, I think. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you seeing YouTube now, or are you still seeing my presentation?
No, we're seeing YouTube now.
Okay, that's perfect. So this is a video about the story that I've told with a particular focus.
We zitten alleen maar om het water. Er is alleen maar water om ons heen. Sowieso. Dus ja, wij leven met water. Where are you from? England. Welcome. Een staatje hier gekomen voor de buurt. Ze hadden echt heel erg behoefte aan een ontmoetingsplek.
Do you hear it well?
Om elkaar te koken,
Yes, we can hear.
te praten en ergens waar ze gehoord worden. En zo is het staartje hier een beetje ontstaan.
Nou ja, we hebben in het verleden wel vaak het gevoel gehad dat deze wijk er een beetje bij hing. Dat voor de gemeente de grens lag bij de Hendrikbrug. Maar ze hebben een paar jaar geleden ontdekt dat wij het evacuatiegebied moeten zijn bij hoogwater, omdat wij het hoogst gelegen wijk zijn. Dus nu is er ineens heel veel belangstelling voor de wijk en de wijkbewoners.
Oh.
Ja, het is, ja.
We zijn er heel erg vooruit gegaan met die ontwikkeling. Ze hebben veel meer aandacht voor ons en we hebben ook het gevoel dat we nu meer gehoord worden.
Dit is de Staart, een buitendijks gebied in Dordrecht. We hebben een visie voor dit gebied ontwikkeld als een grootschalige schuillocatie bij overstromingen. Samen met het Wantij initiatief hebben we de bewoners uitgenodigd om hun mening over deze visie te geven en om samen met ons een droom voor het gebied te ontwikkelen.
Als Dordrecht werken we aan verschillende Europees gesubsidieerde intrajecten, waarin de focus ligt op de waarde van water en groen, voor zowel mensen als natuur en hoe we deze groene
It's lagging a bit, Barry.
kunnen inzetten in de wijk Staart-Oost.
Yeah, I cannot change anything.
We'll share the link to the video.
Yeah, exactly. Is it done?
Yes, it's done.
Okay. Yeah, I can play it in low quality, but I don't think you want to see it
No,
again.
we'll share the link to the video. Are you almost done, Barry? Because it's almost time for questions, and there are also already a few. Do we have?
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
Okay. Sandrine has asked already 5 questions. Do you want to ask them yourself, Sandrine? No?
I'd rather not because of my awful English accent. I'll let you do it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, the first question. Was there funding provided by health structures as well as by environmental protection structures, as well as by road construction structures? I think the question is the funding like from all these different facets, or was there one source for funding?
No, from different sources. The road project is very important. The Haringvlietstraat. It comes with a budget to renovate the road, but it also comes with a budget for greening alongside that road. What was innovative for us, normally if you do a maintenance project of a road, it should focus on that road, but it was the wish of the inhabitants to look also beyond that road. In kind of their parking area, which is kind of a courtyard, if we could do greening there rather than alongside the road, because for the part they wanted to keep the two-way road. And this we made this possible, let's say, that we spend the maintenance budget not only in the project area, but also just outside the project area where it benefits more to the people at their request. I think some of the money came from more the social budget, the neighborhood budget. And the neighborhood center, which was quite expensive, that partly came from a European subsidy as well, from the ResiRiver Cities project.
Okay, thank you. Satisfied, Sandrine? Yes. Okay.
And
second
I think
one.
we got some funding from the province as well. we got funding from the province to do this green circle method, to implement it. And I think we also got some funding from the measures, the nature development measures we did alongside the river.
Okay,
it's usually not big, but yeah, go ahead.
What was the most complicated obstacle I encountered, and how did you get through it?
Well, I think the most complicated for us is that we started with a vision, which was the vision of the architecture biennale for the start. And the idea there was to make the start into a large-scale shelter. So, in fact, we ask a service from the inhabitants. We ask the service from the inhabitants that they provide their house as shelter. But we have been ignoring the inhabitants for many years. For I think at least 20 years or more, and they know that, and they feel very forgotten. So, for us, the main challenge was to turn that sentiment around, that sentiment of that they feel forgotten. There was a lot of distrust against the municipality. They say, yeah, you come here again and you never promise what you never deliver what you promise. So there was a lot of bad sentiment also during that first meeting or second meeting with those 100 participants. So we had to be, we had to gain back the trust. That was not easy, but I think the green circle method helped to do so gradually over time, I would say. So because the people could see that we took their ideas serious, we gave them ownership for their own ideas, and we started working right away with those ideas, particularly the easy to realize projects. They have all been implemented in quite a short time. They could see actual progress on the ground as well. And I think this helped us a lot to gain back trust. And it's what you heard in the video as well. The inhabitants say it's a bit strange that it needed to happen this way, because we maybe needed something from the inhabitants. They would rather have that they were never forgotten, but at least it happened, and they were happy with that.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to mix it up a bit. Sandrine has one more question, but let's do one from Ralph. Ralph, do you want to ask it yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Barry, for your presentation. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, so I was just wondering, I mean, this sounds like a kind of very necessary, but on the other hand, perhaps ordinary city development plan. So why would you call this a nature-based solution?
Okay, I wouldn't call it ordinary and necessary, but I don't know why you call it like that, Rolf. Maybe you can
well,
explain that.
It's not in a kind of defending or offensive way, but it's just I mean it seems to be like a very interesting project, needed to get indeed this part of the city to attract that more to the rest of the city for the obvious reasons that I mentioned. So there's a very noble and very good initiative. But I'm looking for the link with nature-based solution. So what is, in your opinion, the link with the nature-based solution?
I think that depends a lot on your definition of nature-based solution. I think one definition that we adopt is the definition from IUCN, and which is very much about nature restoration and providing services, ecosystem services. And for us, the most important ecosystem services are the services, well, of course, for the biodiversity, but that is also the nature restoration, but it's the services that nature provides to the community. And for us, those are essential at the start. So what I tried to show in my presentation, it's about promoting positive health, and that captures many different ecosystem services. So it has to do with heat stress, it has to do with mental health, it has to do with social cohesion, sense of place, sense of identity. So for us, that is also a nature-based solution. So maybe that is different than the type of nature-based solution that you think about. But yeah, this is then maybe a more theoretical debate. Yeah, but we definitely see this as nature-based solution.
Yeah, and I like this answer because I think it's indeed the correct answer. There are many types of nature-based solutions that all have different co-benefits, and this is now you are emphasizing the co-benefits for the community and for the general well-being. And I think that's indeed a very important, that can be a very important part of nature of this kind of solution, especially in an urban environment. And you're dealing with
absolutely.
So I completely agree with your answer.
Okay, thanks, Rolf. So it was not meant offensive, but this for us is also a difficult discussion. I can be honest about that, and we are trying to we're trying to work with science. So this policy practice interface, or the science policy interface and the science practice interface, that's very important for us to also develop a mutual understanding what we think about nature-based solutions, and which is the kind of guiding principles, for example, that we should adopt. And I think it's also very important to think about this in a systems perspective. So for example, PIM is working on the how we say that in English, Pim, de programmatische aanpak grote wateren. It is looking at the delta scale, and what is very important in this area is all about dynamics, room for giving room for nature, room for the water. So I think a lot of those ideas are incorporated into the vision of the start, and then is when you start to see the also it is some of those ecosystem services, they conflict with one another. There's a big conflict between recreational services and the services for biodiversity, and particularly on the start we see that they cannot always be combined. So this is a balancing act that we have to do as a municipality, and it's even a balancing act inside our municipality. So I might like some ideas, but my colleagues of also cultural heritage, it also has to do with it. They might oppose the same ideas, and I think it's very interesting. What was really new for us is that we put this vision of a tidal park on the entire area of the start. Before it was only the Wantij. But over time, we developed on the idea, this tidal park, that should be the uniting vision for this whole area. And now we want to find out, okay, what does that mean? What can we realize? What can we not realize? Where are conflicts? And also, where can you find synergies? But I would not call this ordinary.
But in my question, I put ordinary between parentheses.
That's fine. But I think what is very nice, why it's extraordinary, I think, is that we try to implement it on this large scale.
Okay, one last question, also from Sandrine. Who is responsible for post-work maintenance? You said that the inhabitants do some of that, but are they the responsible ones?
It depends a little bit. Depends on the area. So it's a big area. So the responsibilities are divided. What I like very much is that now with the community center Staartje, citizens are taking responsibility for the maintenance of the pocket parks. That is what the citizens are doing. The more larger scale urban green the municipality is doing. And where it has an ecological function, so where there's an ecological maintenance regime, then we have subcontracted maintenance to a nature organization, and they are the one doing the maintenance, the ecological maintenance.
Okay, thank you, Barry, for your presentation and answering the questions. And now we'll move on to Ross MacDonald from the Stranooden Group Water Scheme, who will tell us something about how they do it in Ireland. Ross, could you share your presentation?
No problem. Be delighted to have you all there. I'm hoping to get my. Can you see that?
Not yet. No.
No. Okay.
Now we can see ourselves.
Okay.
Very organized desktop you have there.
What about that?
Here
Can
we
you
are.
see that?
Yes, now we can.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, chaos going on there, so there is all right. To say it's either a busy person or somebody that's not just that well organized. I don't know which. I'm trying to work it out. Okay, from current slide. Okay.
Yes, great.
I suppose to give you a bit of context, we're a group water scheme in Ireland. Most of the rural population would be served by group water schemes. In urban, it's Ishka and the statutory body that basically provides water for the urban people, but most of the rural community would be served by group water schemes. And Snowdon actually would be one of the bigger group water schemes in the county I'm from. 60% of the people would actually get the water from group water schemes. We have something like 1,200 domestic connections and maybe 400 business, commercial, mostly agricultural connections in our network. So we would have, like, you know, so this is the catchment. Our catchment is 129 kilometers squared, and it's we've a lot of hills and drumlins in the county, and the soil is pretty pearly draining soil. When it rains, and it rains a lot, it has a flashy nature. The Dromore River system would fill up very quickly and then come back very quickly too, like, you know, when there's a bit of a dry spell or whatever, like, you know. So that's kind of the nature of what we're dealing with in the county, like, you know. I suppose first and foremost, we got a steering committee together, and this included both statutory and non-statutory people that had skin in the game or were concerned about the water, like, you know, your environmental sections, your EPA, the EPA, the Department of Agriculture, all these bodies, I suppose, got together and got a plan, basically. So we looked for an integrated catchment management approach, which was basically getting all the information historically that would have been available through all the different departments and one thing and another, and basically working out what kind of scheme would be most appropriate for this surface water project. I suppose it was a source protection project, and we had two of them. Ours was the surface water, and there was a groundwater source protection in another part of the country. So I suppose it's important to mention that the Department of Housing and Rural Affairs would have mainly funded this to the tune of 800,000 or nearly €1 million by the time we were finished, like, you know. I suppose it's important to mention that this pilot project started in 2019, November 2019, but really getting out in the ground, it was March 2020, and it was the time of COVID and one thing and another. But we kept going, and I suppose it just puts a wee bit of context as to how hard the whole communication thing was going to be. Okay, I suppose the pilot project for us had 4 different sections. Sampling, okay, the sampling was going to inform you what the problem was and where the problems were, whether that's from getting your lab samples, or whether that been from river walks, or just walks around the catchment to find out where the problem areas would be. I never mentioned that the fact. Why was our catchment picked? Our catchment was picked because we got a letter from the local authority saying that there was contamination of pesticides in our water or whatever. they would have programmed sampling at each catchment, and they came across MCPA, which is a pesticide that they use quite a bit in agriculture here, and it was because of that letter from the local authority that we had to act and get something that would prevent this from happening again, or even mitigate against it. It's important to mention that we cannot take out pesticides at the treatment level. So whilst you can deal with nutrients and all that, you can't deal with pesticides at all. It's a very expensive system, and something that is not done anywhere in this country, so it isn't like, you know. From the sampling, we also delineated that phosphates was also a big issue too. And that's a nutrient that is running off the land, whether that be from agriculture or whether that be from septic tanks or whatever, like, you know. But that is an issue. So we were going to have a focus on that when we were doing the project. I suppose communication for us was vital in all areas, like, you know, because when you're talking to people, and also I suppose it's important to point out that we didn't have any statutory or regulatory powers or whatever. We very much are invested in the community because obviously we're supplying water, so we would be well recognised, and we wouldn't be seen as a threat or whatever, like, you know, by whether they be from farmers or whether that be from ordinary people or whatever, like, you know. We didn't have that statutory clout, like, you know. So for us, visibility was vital in all areas. So I had a marked van, as to say, our catchment was about 129 kilometres squared. And we got around that quite a bit. And that was through the sampling, that was through river walks, that was through going out and meeting individual farmers. And we placed a big emphasis on that. Also, it's important that this message wasn't only being delivered to the farming community, it was very important that we got to the overall community, because everybody has a responsibility for protecting their rivers and the streams and their drains or whatever. So we were getting out to CE workers, that's a community employment scheme here, to tidy towns organisations, to GAA clubs or sporting clubs and stuff. We were trying to reach all aspects of the community. You didn't want to be just farm focused. It was very important that you were delivering the message of source protection all over the community. As I said, we were sampling. The pesticide sampling was happening maybe what we would call the spraying season, which was between March and October every week at maybe 15 different points in the catchment. So we were I suppose it's catchment scientists that were dictating where we were taking the samples, and that was I suppose making sure that we catch the whole catchment, and we were able to keep an eye on where the problems were greatest and one thing and another. So I suppose we weren't using a scattered gun approach for any measures. We were trying to do it at areas. We were hitting the targeted areas that we were having the most problems from, like, you know. So we'd also have flow meters to get an idea of the different flows of the different streams. So you were able to delineate where your problems were on scale, like, you know. So the pesticide focus, because I suppose farmers would traditionally, we've a lot of growth of the likes of the common rush, and that because of the nature of our soils and the land that we have, that was always going to be a focus on us, like, you know. So we offered services to farmers free of charge, and that was well taken up. I suppose the first one of them would have been the weed wiping. Why would we, as people trying to prevent pesticides, be actually putting pesticides out? Well, we knew that farmers were going to be using this, whether we provided that service or not. So with the weed wiping, you use a fraction, a tenth of the amount of contaminant that you would use with a boom sprayer, let's say, and that's why we offered this service. Also, it was a great way of getting beyond the cattle grid, getting in the farm gate and talking to people, because when you're offering a free service, normally people are very good at taking up at it. So that gave you a whole project direct publicity, because you were dealing with the people that maybe would have most affected, because they owned the land, and without the farmer, without the landowner, you were going nowhere, like, you know, with regards to trying to get measures in. So whilst the weed wiping was very popular for the smaller farmers, we felt that the more progressive, intensive farmer was still looking to use the broom sprayer. So what we did was in year 2, we offered a broom sprayer service. So we basically, even though there would be regulations with regards how you maintain your broom sprayer, it's largely ignored because the regulatory bodies haven't enough people on the ground to get to every farm. So we would have went to about 63 broom sprayers, and quite a few of that number weren't working properly. So we serviced them, we got them certified, but we also fitted a low drift nozzle, so that prevented some of the drift coming from the broom sprayers. And also you were getting in and talking with the more intensive farmers and saying why you were doing this and what the problem was. So I suppose that whole talking and one thing and another, it did work out well. From year to year, we had a 50% drop on the amount of pesticides detected in the water. So that was, we saw that as a win, and we continue to work at that. The phosphate mitigation measures, I suppose phosphates are not like nitrates and can be, I suppose, easily mitigated against, and that if you put up the plant to take up the nutrients coming off the land, that would alleviate that would prevent that nutrient load going into your river. So I suppose to that end, we on this particular project, we would have carried out 13 kilometres of fencing. We carried out about 4.5 kilometres of hedgerow. We also did about 2 kilometres of bank erosion repairs, and we put up quite a bit of willow buffer, because willow by its very nature takes up a lot of nutrients or whatever, especially phosphates, like, you know. So we put in willow zones in quite a few areas as well. I suppose I mentioned too, we would have had group talks with farmers, but we also we'd put more emphasis on that one-to-one. And we felt, say, when we, I suppose, when we found out exactly where the biggest problems were, so it was very important to deal with those farmers at the field level. So taking the farmer and explaining what we were trying to do, and you wouldn't be looking for big areas all over the field, but you'd look for them in those what we call critical source areas. So we felt those farm meetings, it would have happened quite a bit with each of the farmers that we done measures on, and it was a long protracted thing, but it was only because we built up the trust over time that you were able to develop that relationship. So you can see here clearly the kind of buffer zones that we're looking for at the different corners and one thing and another, where that flow path, where it was coming from the field into the river, and the more of a buffer that you get from the fence to the river, the better chance you have of stopping those nutrients coming in. These are some of the bank erosion measures that we would have carried out. You can see there at this top corner, you'd have anything from 12 meters, like that narrowed as you went along, but historically there would have been multiple livestock access access to the stream. So the fence was obviously stopping that in future, and you're narrowing the stream a bit, because this stream would have been 3 times the width it was when we started, like, you know. So you got the natural flow, you got the stony bottom, which is obviously good for fish in that there to spawn and lay their eggs and stuff. So you were creating new habitats for that, and you were future proofing. Actually, the ResiRiver tour that we had, they would have went to that site. It looked a whole lot different when they were on it, because obviously it was all grown up in that there, you know. So this is another, I suppose, more engineered solution. This is the Dromore River system. I suppose when all those tributaries, we had we had concentrated all the areas because our sampling and our information was telling us that one particular sub-catchment, Derry Valley, in the top of the catchment was our most vulnerable sub-catchment. So when this is when the river gets bigger and like that, there was multiple access points here and a lot of soil erosion and sediment getting into the river. So we were bringing the river back. Obviously, we involved the likes of the fisheries, we involved the EPA, the County Council, the environmental section. They were all included when we were planning this. So we weren't just going in and doing what we liked. It all had to be, I suppose, vetoed by them as well, like, you know. So this is another example of, there would have been 40 heifers getting into this particular one patch, like, you know. You can see it was an out farm with no water. So we provided a solar drinker so he could basically paddock off his 40-acre site, like, you know, and this worked well for the farm. It was a solution at farm level as well. So obviously we moved that drinker, and we in the process actually now of hedging that particular, because I suppose you start this relationship and you give them solutions for them, they work with you an awful lot better, and now we're actually fencing off quite a bit of his ground, and that's because you built a relationship, you've built trust and one thing and another. That's that particular stream now, like you can see the vegetation and the how, I suppose, narrower the stream is. We also did an awful lot of promotion on woodlands for water. Ireland is actually pretty poorly placed with woodlands, and there are a lot of schemes being offered currently, but there's a lot of paperwork to it. So I suppose we would have tried to take that paperwork and stuff out for the farmer, because they find that intimidating. So we do. So we promoted quite a bit of woodland. So I think we got 13 hectares altogether that's still in train. Some of them haven't been planted up yet, but we hope to keep progressing on that, because we see woodlands as the silver bullet with regards. So if you're getting a 30-40 meter and the farmer's getting paid for that woodlands and the water's getting protected and you're building up your biodiversity, you're building up your habitats, everybody's a winner as far as I'm concerned. So these are the amount of sites that we would have done. I think there's 21 sites. As I say, we're continuing the work, and these would not have been scattergun. We had walked all these rivers and found out where the main problems were, and we targeted that. But I suppose, as I intimated earlier, we didn't just focus on the farms. We also focused on the tiny towns groups. We focused on community employment schemes, and I don't know about other countries in Europe, but we're addicted to pesticides in this country. So to not give an alternative, we didn't think it was appropriate. So we actually developed, or no, didn't develop, but we made up an acidic acid product that, whilst it was harmful, it would have killed off the plants, it wasn't harmful to pollinators. So we felt we were giving people an alternative, especially in playgrounds and where you have impermeable surfaces, and there's a lot of runoff from towns with the likes of Roundup or glyphosate getting into the water. So this was an alternative that we were offering, and both sporting and community groups were happy to take us up on that. We also would have promoted and sent out leaflets on good and bad practices of how to protect water. We did that with our 1,200 members, and we would have also done it on schools and community groups as well, sending out the message of source protection. We also would have had a let it bloom. So this is plant a tree and go pesticide free. We did this with the schools at the time, and as I said, it was during COVID and one thing and another. So it was a wee bit hard to do, but we managed it all the same. We got something like 2,000. We've 10 primary schools in the catchment. So it was giving them a wee bit of an incentive to go out and plant trees and get that conversation going about nature and all that. So this would be ongoing with us. We've the schools, they come to our plant, they come to our source, and we go to schools with kick samples and that there. So we're all the time, every generation has to be, I suppose, we have to spread the gospel of source protection. And this is something that we've committed to do long term, like, you know. Industry can't be ignored either. We've recently had a collaboration with Abbott's who provide baby food. They're a local plant. They're actually on the river as well. So they would have invested money to help us clean out septic tanks at another stream or whatever, like, you know. So it's keeping them involved in the conversation. Indeed, we would have steering group committees where we involve the likes of industries like Abbott's, like Lakelands as well, because we had many conversation with the CEO and the manager of large co-op here, Lakelands. So we were, I suppose, telling them our challenges and how we could maybe influence how they do their business. So I think that's very important as well, like, you know. So during the project too, because of my visibility and because people will be coming up and talking to you about water protection and all that, we set up a River Trust organization. I think that it started, the River Trust organization started in England, and it's moved over to the Republic of Ireland as well. So there's quite a few River Trust organizations in this country, and we would be involved in loads of different protecting the water, but also taking up litter. We'd have litter, taking up litter, black spots, cleaning them up, and planting trees too, which is obviously good for nature and good for protecting the water as well. And I suppose to let you know that this isn't a project. Protecting the water, it's a process, and it takes time. And we delineated that one particular stream in this most vulnerable subcatchment was basically presenting 60% of the phosphate load. So that's where we're concentrating our efforts now. I'm weekly. I'm taking 6 samples at that. I'm working with farmers on the ground. As I say, we did the septic tank. So all the time, and even the fencing that we've done, the planting that we've done, we're following up with that because we're invested. Every euro we spend will save us €9 at the treatment plant. So we're cognizant that the only way we can protect our water is through actually protecting it at source before it gets to us, like, you know. So we have a website, obviously, and we're all the time putting up videos and links to what we do and why we do it. So that's it.
Thank you, Ross. You're nicely within time, which means that we have more time for questions.
Great.
We already have the first one from Sandrine. The two-story bank with geotextile. Where can we find the technical documentation for this achievement?
Just run that by me again, sorry.
She is wondering about the technical documentation of the two-story bank with geotextile that you showed.
With right, yeah, we have some. It's not something we have shared or whatever with regards to how we did it and the technical nuances of that. Is that it, Jan? Yes.
Yes, I think that's it.
Yes, yeah. We have that. I'd be happy to share that documentation, like, you know, but we can give you the spec and we worked with the contractor on the ground, like, you know, but definitely would share that information, no problem.
Great. Ralph has a follow-up question. Ralph, do you want to ask it yourself?
Yeah, so I was just wondering about that indeed that solution with geotextile. Is that a combination of bank protection and improving habitat, or is it mainly bank protection and then improving habitat is just a kind of a co-benefit?
Yes, you're exactly right. So yeah, it's a co-benefit, and I suppose it's you're getting at the biodiversity because you're planting trees inside that zone as well. So the bank protection would have been first and foremost, like, you know, because there was so much ingress with livestock over the years. This was a much wider path and a lot of access points with a lot of poaching and obvious damage along the stream and river bank, like, you know. So first and foremost, we were looking to protect, and then obviously you have the co-benefit of the building up the biodiversity with the willow and the fruit trees that we also planted inside that area.
Thanks.
No problem.
And then a question from Mark. Mark, do you want to ask it yourself?
Sure. I suppose it's a question for everybody, just to make sure we're along the right lines and the way we were thinking with the group water schemes in terms of the weed wiping service and the boom sprayer servicing. Would you class it would everybody class it as a nature-based solution? Because it can be a bit of an oxymoron where it's obviously applying pesticide or assisting people in applying pesticide, but it's doing it in a way that is not going to be as damaging to nature as the alternative. So is it a nature-based solution?
Would I think it's a nature-based solution?
I suppose, yeah, Ross, and you and everybody else, in terms of following on from the conversation we had very earlier on as well, in terms of the different definitions of nature-based solution, does it fall into the category?
I'm interested to hear what Ross is thinking about this.
Pardon?
I'm interested to see at first what Ross is thinking about this. Oh, okay, okay. Well, I suppose it is counterintuitive. Mark's dead right. I suppose I would have mentioned that during it, that why are we looking to prevent pesticides yet providing a service? But I suppose you have to get over yourself a wee bit. If people are going to use this particular products, it's doing it in a way that's more controlled, because I suppose you're making sure that the water doesn't get it. So doing it at the right times, doing it with using less of the contaminant or the pesticide in question. I think okay, it's very hard to sell it as a nature-based solution, but basically pesticides are not illegal here, so we have to provide a service that can do it in a way that's more controlled and less likely to contaminate. Okay, I'm buffering here. I do. Yeah.
And do you think that also creates like goodwill for like other measures you want to do with farmers? That is so like a way to achieve your other goals, because you're doing this, yeah.
Of course, and obviously we were providing a free service. So I don't know about farmers anywhere else, but definitely the ones in this neck of the woods, they love the free stuff, like, you know. So you were getting beyond the cattle grid inside the farm gate to provide a service. Now you have an opportunity to talk about why you're there and why you're as somebody that's providing water, and a lot of them are drinking the same said water, like, you know. So you were able to, I suppose, impress them. We're actually doing this so you don't drink it, like that cup of tea that you have this evening. The less of this stuff we use, the better chance you won't be drinking that, like, you know. So that, I suppose, would resonate with them as well, like, you know. So it was really important, we think, just to get engagement, like, you know. So for that alone, I think it was worth it.
And Mark, just out of my interest, do you think it's a nature-based solution?
I think so. Myself and Ross, I'd agree with Ross, but I was wondering, does everybody else agree with us in terms of, say, well, the IUCN definition?
Yeah,
in an ideal world, nobody is using pesticides, but as Ross was saying, and especially in, like, you know, in agriculture where it can be a necessity, or there is no, you know, there's an absence of viable alternatives, then at least reducing the amount of pesticide and having a more targeted approach. I think, although it's not necessarily, you know, it's very obviously a nature-based solution if you're planting buffer zones or whatever, things like that, where you're actually, I suppose, creating nature in a way. You're also you're leaving space for nature by providing that service.
Yeah.
I think it depends on if you're a pragmatist or like a purist about nature-based solutions.
That's true.
What are you, Ralph? Are you a purist or a pragmatist?
I'm still thinking about it. I mean, it's a solution, but I'm not sure if it's. So what's the nature-based point in this? But I think it's in any way it's good for the system. So in saying that, it's it's enough motivation to just continue with that kind of measures, I would say.
Okay, great. Yeah, on the agenda we have the discussion now, and we already started a bit of a discussion. But I think we can also turn it around a bit because we have been you've been asking questions to Ross and Barry, but maybe Barry and Ross also have like things they want to discuss with us. So I could ask you, Ross or Barry, if he's I don't see his screen. Is there something you want to discuss with us?
Well, obviously, I think that. I obviously think that that conversation of communications and how best to do it, and it could be different for different countries how you go about that, like, you know, but definitely we feel group discussions and round the table with pen and paper and stuff sometimes doesn't cut it with the farmer in the field or whatever. And we found above anything else, getting that farmer in the field and talking about what your issues are, what their issues are, and how we can come to some kind of an arrangement where everybody's happy. It's definitely the way forward. Like, you know, they have to be included because a lot of times they have the solutions. Like, you know, when you have a group discussion and you've obviously always people in there that are more talkative and more confident and more influential than or deemed influential in a group, they can kind of sway people their way, or even the people that would be more open to discussions and open to change would be sidelined on one thing or another. So that's why I think one-to-one is vital in any nature-based solutions proposals going forward, especially with landowners and I'm sure it applies with urban areas too.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what we experienced when we started to give ownership to the inhabitants. Then is when they take ownership and they I'll say start to correct each other. I think that for us was really an eye-opening when that happened, or not an eye-opening, but that's what we hoped for. Yeah. So that is not the community against the municipality, but actually the community members start to correct themselves, and they feel ownership, they take ownership, and that's what makes it more easy for us to realize the plans and the that contribute to our shared ambition. Yeah.
Just a question related to that, perhaps. I mean, to the both of you, and apparently in the city of Dordrecht it works quite well. This community engagement and correcting themselves people. While when we visited that area in Ireland, I also noticed that there was a large effort to replant hedges, for instance. And on the other hand, hedges were demolished by the farmers themselves. So
that's right, yeah.
I mean, there is not, you don't have any mandate to force upon measures. So how does it work in the city of Dordrecht and also in your area?
Yeah, well, and I suppose it was ironic that we were coming from planting that we would have done on the tour and seeing the devastation that was happening to our left that time when we were traveling around the road. And I suppose we don't have any regulatory powers, and we would be impressing on that particular farmer in question. He's also a contractor, and it's trying to change that. But you'd hope over time that neighbor pressure, like, you know, where actually you're trying to get more sway with the general public, and you'd hope over time that you would be able to influence those people, because you can't force this situation. Well, certainly we can't, like, you know.
Yeah, for us, I think it's getting people to I would say unpave their garden. Yeah, I think that is also when it's private property, and yeah, you cannot force upon it. So it has to be through persuasion. I think it helps if we give the good example as a municipality, that we at least are working to greening the roads. And the moment that you do such a maintenance project, I think that is when you get into contact with the inhabitants. And that is also a good moment to talk with them about greening their gardens. Yeah, but it is not easy, let's say. They are not easily perceived. And we started an initiative which is called Green Neighbors, so that in fact they don't hear it from us, the benefits, for example, but they hear it from their neighbor, and that might help to get them into action. So we do provide, we do provide
sorry for cutting across you, Barry, but there was a situation actually where we were on a farm and we had started to do work. So we had, but the particular farmer had come up and said, actually, I don't want to be as far back from the river because I want to be able to clean that river out. And we had started works. We had started clearing and planting and all that, and we said no, we couldn't bow down to that. Like that, obviously there was no point in us going in to do measures and not doing what we had intended doing. So actually we pulled out of that site in the end, and if we hadn't have done that, word would have got out, you know, they're soft and you can get what you want off them, but if you don't get what you want, you're better to walk away. And we got more probably talk about that in the locality from I suppose it kind of future-proofed. You know, when we go into a farm and we don't get what we want, well, we'll not do the measures, like, because there's no point in just fencing and planting for the sake of it. It has to be targeted and it has to be appropriate for the particular site.
Okay, I'm kind of curious if how this works in other countries. We also have people here from France and Germany. Are you already using these kinds of techniques in your stakeholder management and community building, or is that something you can use? Is there someone who can say something about that? Maybe Victoria or Melanie or that's Victoria.
Hi, thank you for this presentation. This was very interesting. I don't know if Johan is there, so he can complete if I forget anything. So in France, we have made up this whole stakeholder involvement strategy, so that we are sure that we have identified all the stakeholders that might be involved from close to far on the project. And from each of those stakeholders that we have identified, we also have designed a set of actions that we can take with the stakeholders to involve them. So this first thing that we have started was involving the local authorities, elected representatives from the cities which are in the project, so that we can inform them of all the changes in the project, involve them in the decisions of the project and the study. Then we have met with every owners that has agreed to see us, and also every owners that has land in the project. We have contacted all of them, about 260 people, but we have been able to meet with only 50 of them, which is already a good start. But from all the people we contacted, it was a bit less than expected. But it also gives us who is really interested in projects and who is going to be involved with positive or not positive inputs, but at least who's going to try to make something happen. So we have had these individual interviews with those 50 persons, and then when we finished the first set of interviews, we had a second stage, which was workshops where in every city where we have a pilot site, we have 5 pilot sites. So on every site, we have organized a workshop, bringing back together all the owners from this site and discussing now the clear scenario that was proposed by the engineers. And how they can amend those scenarios, how they can choose to remove parts of the scenarios, if they accept parts of the scenarios, if they think this is going to be useful or not. So it was this whole discussion process, because the interview was mostly to, it was around an hour interview per person, and it was mostly to inform them about the project and tell them how this is going to go, but try to include them from the start of the project, telling them that this study has started on your land. So we want to make sure that you're informed about this study and that you can have a say on it. And so those second workshop were more like not technical, but like really get into the project, get into doing something. So we had these big maps with the projects, and then they would amend it, like give notes, say, I really don't want this on my land. Try to do it at the neighbors. We have that a lot. So it's always like this. And then we have negotiations. We started discussing like whether it's possible technically or not. And all this information were gathered, and we have given it back to the engineers, which are now during the summer reshaping the scenarios. And we will have a final project by the end of the summer that will be given to the elected authorities, which will have a say on, like, we decide that this scenario is going to happen. But then even if they choose the scenario, the landowners will still be able to say, okay, so this is what my elected representative have chosen, but I don't want it on my land, or I do want it on my land. Okay. So this is the different layers of power that we still have within the project. I don't know if that was clear. Any questions possible?
For me it was, yeah.
Dat is een van de projecten die ik al het voorgesteld heb. Governance.
Ralph, your mic is on, so you can share it with us.
It was just something I want to share with Stanford on the part.
And Jan, probably along that line, I'm going to ask and call people out who are behind their cameras now. I'm curious about the experiences. I think we have colleagues here from the, if they're still here, from the Swedish Geotechnical Institute. And I know they work on big NBS projects. So I'm curious if anyone is here from there and would like to speak about that. And apart from the Swedish Geotechnical Institute, I think we have Dave here online from the US Army Corps of Engineers, and they work on larger projects also. And I'm curious if they can share how things work in their project with stakeholders.
Oh, there's Sweden, someone, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Hi.
Hello, should I say something? I'm Annette from Swedish Geotechnical Institute. I'm not sure what to say. We do implement some project as authority in one river, and I think on the geotechnical side, it's like one kind of engineering people, pretty gray people, working with hard solutions. And then we have different kind of people in Sweden. They work very often with participation within the water framework, restoration people, the municipalities. But I do think we don't involve the people very much when it's come to the geotechnical side, the real engineers. So that's what I'm trying to do within my authority and with all the consultancy company in Sweden to start thinking about nature-based solutions. So we're in the beginning.
And then you're talking about working with the community, or do you mean like convincing engineers that they should like implement more green solutions?
More convincing the engineers. And also we see the municipality, they also asking for more nature-based solutions. So I can see a little bit of change in Sweden, that the engineers coming asking us, okay, what can we do? What kind of solutions can we do? So I think it's a good start.
And what do these engineers need? Do they need like technical proof, or do they need like to know the benefits of using nature-based solutions?
Both technical proof, ideas, like the one we saw from Ireland. All these ideas are very good. And also we had to convince them to involve all these other people, like the fisher people, the people who know about the biodiversity, because now they really don't include these expertise.
Oh, and we have another question from Sandrine. What is considered a nature-based solution in Sweden? But I think that's a bit broad. So what do you consider a nature-based solution, Annette?
I'm going for the IUCN criteria. And actually we're trying to develop what is a nature-based solution within the geotechnical field. So any ideas you have, I'm writing a list of criteria right now. It was very interesting to hear this discussion. And one of my questions actually is, if you avoid something like the pesticides, if you avoid something, is it a nature-based solution? If you avoid it, it will benefit the nature. Is it a nature-based solution?
Is the lesser evil? Is the lesser evil good enough? That's the question, basically. Yeah.
So for me, it's not, but I'm not sure.
It's an interesting point, and I mean, there are of course many definitions of nature-based solutions, and also assessment frameworks. And within ResiRiver, we use the IUCN framework, but that is not to say that that is the only one. So I think we can also try to expand on that perhaps, or to propose changes. And I think if you stop doing something, then that even might qualify as a nature-based solution. So it's an interesting thought, and well, I have to chew on that actually.
And maybe Dave can also say something about that. I know it's very early in the US, so maybe he's in his pajamas, but are you there, Dave?
Right.
No, he's not. Okay. So maybe he fell asleep again. That will be that will be understandable. Do people have something else they want to discuss? So maybe someone we haven't heard of yet. This is your chance. You can also type it in the chat box if you don't feel comfortable shouting it out loud. I'll give it 1 minute.
How do we incorporate those ideas into the ResiRiver project, let's say, on community engagement? Will it be part of some kind of guidance, or how do we capture the lessons?
I thought about it a little, and I'm kind of intrigued by the differences the differences and also agreements in governance and the problems related to that.
Yeah, so, that's very important.
Yeah, and I think I mean that was the whispering in Stanford. I think I already proposed a kind of a sub-project to look into that and indeed gather those ideas and also see what we can learn from that. And especially, I mean, well, now we have experiences from the Netherlands, Ireland, a little bit Sweden, and perhaps Sweden can come up with more. But we also have the French partner and the German partner. So, I mean, on one hand, the governance issue is quite national specific. On the other hand, I think we can also learn something from that. It's not going to be implemented quite easily because I think especially things on governance level are quite difficult to change from nation to nation. on the other hand, there are beyond any doubts things to learn from that. So just seeing this seminar as a kind of a first step to get into that issue and see what we can learn would be very nice. So, well, also looking to our big leader over here. So perhaps we can set up a sub-project indeed to to see what we can specifically learn from those differences in governance.
Stanford, what do you think?
I'm being put on the spot here.
Yes, you are.
I thought I would take a backseat role today. Yeah. I think we're open for a lot of ideas, and in terms of how we are going to pick it up and run with it, we need to see in time. Okay?
That's a very political answer.
Yeah, exactly. I thought about that. I thought I could start calling people names and say, this person is going to pick that up, but I'm not going to do that as yet.
Victoria?
Yeah, sorry. More specifically on the webinar type, can we have more info on, like, is this going to be something regular, very regular, or is this going to come up sometimes? Where can we find the webinars? Is there going to be any platforms? And can this be about the translation of this webinar potentially? Like, is it each partner from each country who translates it? How do we do?
Yes, I can say something about that. I think there will be 2 webinars per year, Stanford, if I'm correct, in the deliverables. So we'll do another one this year, definitely, probably in the fall. And yes, this one has been recorded, and we'll be working on providing subtitles and cutting it up a bit to make it a bit shorter, maybe. And that will be one of the learning materials. And we have to see, we'll share that at the LinkedIn group, definitely. And we'll see about creating our learning platform and where we will put all of the materials together. And we will communicate about that, of course.
Yeah, I can add to that.
Stanford?
Yeah, I can add to that. The fact is, we would like to see Victoria, and also for our German colleagues, if we can do subtitles in French and in German, because I know if you have associated groups who are interested in this. The webinar, when it's completed and edited, we are going to put that on our ResiRiver website.
Website as well. Okay.
Yeah. And we are also going to share it on LinkedIn. And for example, like calling colleagues, because, well, for the people in the webinar who don't know, we have people here from Sweden. They're in a sister project, and we're also going to be sharing our information with them, because we're all working on the topic of mainstreaming and upscaling of nature-based solutions.
Yeah, that was a follow-up question. Like, can this webinar put on platforms that already exist on nature-based solutions? Like, it can be something that could help, knowing more about the project itself.
Yeah, the intern Juliet has made a nice inventarization of all of the different platforms, and we'll try also to spread our materials to those platforms as well. So it's like both ways. We'll incorporate some of theirs, and we'll send out material as well.
Okay. Yeah. And another question about how do you pick the themes, the topics of the webinar?
I'll take volunteers for the next one. So everyone who wants to give a webinar, you can, and we'll try to make combinations that make sense. So for this one, Dordrecht and Ireland were willing to do something. So we thought, okay, what's the main factor in both projects? We thought, we want to do something about community sports. So that is the first topic. The second topic can be a combination again of 2 different pilot projects or with 2 different organizations, and we'll find a suitable topic. But that's maybe something I can ask here. Who wants to do the next one?
And probably
I will help, of course.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think we should not, because we want to make this into a webinar big discussion community on nature-based solution, and we are all learning in the process. I think we should not restrict ourselves to just our project group or associated partners. I think if there are other people who attend our webinars and they think, I have a topic or I have a discussion that I would like to share in the bigger group, then we are open to including that in one of our webinars. So
definitely, yes, yeah.
And then I go sign it.
Okay. I think I'll cut it off here then. I have to thank you all for joining this this webinar, and especially Barry and Ross for presenting here as well. Thank you very much, guys. And I'll guess see you at the next one. And I put in the agenda some closing remarks. But maybe Stanford wants to have some closing remarks as well, because it's his project, maybe. I put you on the spot again, didn't I?
No, it's not a problem. No, first of all, I'd like to thank you all for being here, especially the people who are not directly partners or associate partners of ResiRiver. One of our objectives is to not only gain new knowledge on how we should work with nature-based solution, but probably it's more important to spread that knowledge to other people who can also use it, so we can get that snowball sort of effect. It's good that you're here, and we would like to keep you in the loop and start up a bigger process of sharing knowledge and looking at how we can apply that knowledge in real life. That's all that I have to say for now. Well, yeah, and then I'm going to close it off.